All right, and it looks like we are live, so 8:59. I'm a minute early. Awesome. I don't even know if anyone's going to be showing up to this one today since I put out a last minute notice, but if we don't have anyone on channel, that's okay because you can always rewatch the recording afterward. So good morning, everyone. It's 8:59 Pacific Standard Time. I'm here in Arizona. My name is Rich Charpentier. And if you're new to the channel, we do a lot of drone talk and building your small drone business and a lot of photography stuff as well. So today kind of looks like we're going to do math. So I've got a mileage, I've got a Google map up here, and I've got a calculator up. And I wanted to talk to you today about not devaluing your drone business. And actually, for small businesses, don't devalue your small business in any way, shape, or form. So we've talked previously about drone aggregators and pricing. I get the pricing question a lot from other drone operators, and it's not that I'm hesitant to give you a number or anything. It always depends on the job, and what we're going to talk about today really zooms in on that. It totally depends on the job and what's being asked of you. So over the course of the past week and a half, I've gotten a couple of interesting phone calls, not from drone aggregators, but I think maybe from drone aggregators. So what do I mean by drone aggregators first? If you're new to the drone marketplace, there are companies like droners.io or Dronebase. There are multiple others as well where you can sign up as a drone operator and they'll send along jobs in your area. You can actually specify the area that you're interested in doing jobs. In my case, I put Arizona. So, and some places in Arizona are going to be a pretty good drive for me and others are not. But so I haven't gotten too many inquiries through droners.io or Dronebase in the past couple months. But during the spring, I got a lot of inquiries through droners.io and Dronebase. Several of those inquiries are very interesting. This ties into the story, so we're telling a story here today. I got contacted. The phone number was from Oregon, so Oregon in the U.S., and not a number that I knew, but I picked it up, and it was a gentleman asking me about doing some drone work in Arizona, specifically in Seligman, Arizona, and Kingman, Arizona. So we're located down here in Prescott, Arizona. You see my little home thing, and we've set up a map to Kingman, Arizona. So this gentleman had 8 commercial vacant properties that he needed flown in Seligman, Arizona, which is on Route 66. And by the way, Route 66 is one of my favorite places. And so I had the Lightroom set up here just for you. The Burma Shave sign. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Burma Shave signs, but if not, go ahead and look them up. They're part of an interesting part of U.S. history in Route 66. And so I've got a lot of Route 66 photos and ghost town photos and things that we'll look through here while we're talking about this today. But so this gentleman had 8 properties in Seligman, Arizona, near Route 66, and 4 more properties in Kingman, Arizona, which is a longer drive than Seligman. Let's pull this back up again and have a little fun. So there's Seligman. Seligman's like an hour and a half from us, more like an hour and a half. And Kingman, going the fastest way, is 2 hours and 13 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and call that dishonest and say that's more like 2.5 hours on the nose. But so that's 144 miles, and I think Seligman was 60 something. We'll look at it afterward. But some major driving time. So the first thing I said to the gentleman is, well, you got 8 properties in Seligman and 4 in Kingman. I think what we'd propose is that we'd do Seligman on one day for you and do Kingman on another day, because that's a lot of driving. And I don't stay at hotels. Nothing against hotels. But so it would be round trips for us to get to each of these places and then back to home for the evening. So unless I were to hook up the Airstream and take a little road trip, and it's not quite road ready right now. So in talking to the gentleman, I said, I need to hop off this call for a little bit. I want to do a little research for you, and then I can call you back and give you my prices. So I wanted to make sure no TFRs, nothing weird, and I wanted to get the general gist of where these locations were. So let's take a look at Kingman for a moment, and before we do anything else with Kingman, so a lot of these drone aggregators, when they contact you, um, it's pretty much a lowball price, maybe $75 for a flight. They want several things done, and so they're taking some money off the top. So people go to them and say, hey, I've got some properties that I want listed or shown, and can you find me a drone pilot? And so normally it's pretty much a low ball, and like for $75 you couldn't get me to drive to Seligman, and for $75 definitely no way I'm going to Kingman either. So we had these 8 properties in Seligman and 4 properties in Kingman. They also let me know that a couple of properties in Seligman were contiguous, so parcel next to parcel, but they still wanted me to fly each individual parcel, so I treat each of those as their own flight. So first off, let's go and look at Kingman for a moment. 144 miles times 2 is 288 miles times 57 cents a mile. Where am I getting that from? IRS mileage rate for 2020, 57 cents a mile. On my website, we say that we'll travel within 30 miles in the Prescott area. After that, you have to call us for a price quote. So number one, my first thought on this trip to Kingman was it's $164 in mileage alone. Then we've got 4 properties that were actually spread out from each other. And normally I do these properties for $125 for raw land sites. That's not outrageous, okay? So if someone is coming to these drone aggregators and the drone aggregators are saying to you, hey, I'll give you $75 per property, then whoever came to them is probably offering $125 or $150. And it also depends on what services you're providing. If you're doing, let's say, a 360 with an MLS link and images from the cardinal locations, you've got multiple images to collect, possibly edit, upload to them. So you've got all that back end time too. So first off, we've got all this driving time. Second off, we've got all the back end work. And so what I said, you know, it's 125 per. So 125 times 4 out in Kingman would be 500 plus, let's just call that the drive time $160. So plus 160 gets us there to $660 for those 4 properties. And quite honestly, I'm not driving out there. Good morning, Greg, and good morning, CJ. How are you guys doing? Good to see you here. Thanks for stopping in. So I hope this isn't a boring one, and I hope this helps you fill in some ideas for your own businesses. But so in the end, I called the gentleman back and I gave him quotes on both things. So Seligman, he said there was 4 contiguous properties and then 4 spread out properties. Remember something, these folks who are selling these properties, when they say, well, I've got 4 contiguous properties, but they're broken up, they're subdivided, and they're each a separate commercial property. So I'm going to be flying each of them. I'm going to be plotting flight routes around each of them. I've got 8 of these to do. So if I'm setting things up on Ground Station Pro, sitting at the office, I'm probably going to spend over an hour setting up my flights, picking where I want the shots from, and also setting up from those 360s. So Seligman, let's call that 125 a job times 8 jobs. Ooh, it's $1,000. So when I called this gentleman back, I said to him, you know, we're going to have drive time here, and, you know, I'm pricing based on each parcel. And so for the Seligman area, he was wondering if I could come down. I suggested, you know, because there's so many there, instead of 125 a property, I'll go ahead and say 100 per property. So that'd be $800 plus the drive time there. And then, you know, the drive time there, let's take a look here. So Seligman, there we go, Seligman, Arizona. And we have 1 hour and 14 minutes. I'm going to call that an hour and a half. So that's a 3-hour round trip. And Kingman was basically more like a 5-hour round trip. Now, it's not just me. Jody comes along with me to be my visual observer. So we're going to have 2 people in a vehicle going to each of these locations to be serviced. We are licensed. We are insured. You know, I've got my liability insurance. I've got my hull insurance. We've got my workers' comp. I'm a small business. I still have to do all these things. So I have all these prices in there. And normally I'm going out with 2 drones and at least 6 batteries. And you know the battery prices these days. So we've got like $1,200 in batteries, $4,000 in drones. We're bringing a lot to bear for these clients. And like I said, the drone aggregators are going to really offer a low ball. But so now, why are we talking about Route 66? Why are we talking about the drone aggregators? We get it, Rich. We're just talking about price, right? No. So during the spring, multiple times, hey, let's take another look at another Route 66 photo too. During the spring, I got multiple notifications from one of the drone aggregation services specifically for multiple properties in Seligman, Arizona, and multiple properties in Kingman, Arizona. And so I'm not going to name any names. I still actually have the email from the service, and we're not here to pick on the service providers. We're here to talk about the fact that these people with these commercial properties back in the spring of 2020 were unable to get any drone pilot out to their location to help them sell their commercial properties. They're making money off these properties. They're not doing charity work, and you shouldn't be doing charity work for them either. These are investors. So these are investment bankers. These are venture capitalists. These are small real estate groups flipping properties. They're in it to earn a living, and they should not be asking you as a drone operator to eat the costs to help them make their living. You need to price appropriately. So the reason why Route 66 comes up, and the reason why we're talking Seligman and Kingman, is because I got these job offers before via a drone aggregation service that failed to deliver to these guys because they're just going too darned low. Okay? Route 66 is an incredible place. Plus, this latest photo, I love ghost towns. So over the years, I've been doing ghost towns everywhere. So I've been all over the state shooting ghost towns. And Route 66 is one of my absolute favorites. This image is not Route 66. This is down in Bisbee, Arizona. And this was during my HDR everything phase back in 2008 when I was having fun with HDR. But so these aggregation companies failed to deliver. And I think that there's an unrealistic expectation on the part of some of these folks selling their properties and looking for us to help them sell their properties. In total, we're talking about 12 commercial properties, as described to me by the person who called from Oregon. So that's a lot of properties. And if we're talking 5 hours of drive time one day and 8 hours of drive time, or I'm sorry, 3 hours of drive time the other day, that's 8 full hours times 2 people in the vehicle. So that's 16 labor hours that need to come back to my business and manage to pay both myself and my visual observer. And, when you sit down and think about it, let's say I just ratcheted the price down. I said, you know what, I'm going to cut you a deal. It's $100 a site. And we'll still do each of the individual parcels. We'll break them out for you, and we'll do a 360, and let's call them $100 each. That's still $1,200 plus that drive time, because I am not giving that free drive time. I need to buy a new truck at some point in time. My business has to supply those finances to buy that new truck and to pay for that truck's insurance and everything else. So, what is it, that terrible movie, Jody really liked it, Joe Dirt. It's a bad comedy, I know. But we're not UNICEF here. So we're here as a business as well, just like these people who are searching for drone pilots, whether it's for video or stills. So I was pretty well amazed because I put it together really quick. I did call the gentleman back the same day. I let him know the price range, and I even ratcheted some prices down in Seligman to make it more palatable, but it still wasn't palatable to him. So $100 a site with the images, with the 360, not including drive time and stuff, that was too much. Right there, I felt very devalued. When I talked to him, I could tell he was already having shell shock. He said, well, I've got to talk to my boss about this. And I was like, absolutely. Have your boss give me a call if you'd like. And, we can walk through the value proposition that we're offering. And quite frankly, it would take a lot of money to get me out to Kingman because it's not the most fun drive out there, and there's not much I can personally do out there. It's not a super ghost town. They've got a cool railroad museum there, so that is one thing. By the way, so another ghost town location, Bisbee, Arizona. This is an old diner, and it's Dot's Diner, located at a really cool place called the Shady Dell. If you're ever going down to Bisbee, check it out. Very unique ghost town. So it's an active ghost town. And gosh, I'd like to go back down there and do some drone work as well, if only somebody would call from there. So example number one, and by the way, here's the Shady Dell in the evening. And so I know some of these HDRs are over the top. This was 2008 when we were all getting used to HDR and I was having a little extra fun. And believe it or not, this one was a big seller in my gallery. So, all right. So second thing this week, I got a phone call, another phone call from a gentleman out of the Southeast. And once again, not naming names or picking on anybody, but I had a gentleman call, and they had a property that they needed imaged, drone flights, in Williams, Arizona. So I said, I love Williams, and Williams is also on Route 66, so another great place to go photograph. And I absolutely love Williams. It's a beautiful area, but what I forget sometimes is how big Williams is. Williams isn't just on Route 40, it goes north heading up to the Grand Canyon. And so this gentleman had bought a property sight unseen. This was the conversation we had. So he told me that he flips land for a living, and that it's his job market, and he'd probably have other jobs for me down the road. So I asked him, I said, can you give me the parcel number and the address if possible, but the parcel number will do. And I'll look it up with Coconino County's online system. And so he did send that along, and I really appreciate it. And I told him, I'll give you a final price. And I said, normally when we're doing properties, 10 acres and under, and this is on our website. It is on our website. It says this. So one thing, make sure you're informative on your website for your drone business. It'll help a lot. But for vacant land properties, 10 acres and under, we charge $125. We do a lot of extras that other drone providers don't do. We do, for some of these, we do the 360 panos if they're convenient. I block out the flights beforehand, normally with Ground Station Pro, so that I have my area knowing that I'm shooting within my boundaries. I take all the information from the GIS sites from the counties, and I actually block this stuff out. So I'm sitting here at this particular desk, punching in GPS coordinates and prepping everything and getting each flight ready. So there's a lot that goes into it that, that's the behind the scenes, but overall it's a $125 flight. But, let's break it down and say, well, Rich spends a half an hour or an hour setting all these flights up. I'm not getting $125 an hour then. Now we're getting half of that. Now we're getting less because we're paying Jody and all the rest. So this gentleman called and said, he had this property in the Williams area. And I said, I will drop you an email this evening with my proposal, and I've got 2 different options for you. And then I took a look at Williams. And so we're going through ghost towns, by the way, because, hey, Route 66 themed. And this is actually not Route 66. This is a place east of Bisbee, Arizona. It's another known ghost town, and the name of it has slipped right out of my head. But so I took a look at where the property was located up in Williams, and I said, whoa, this is 2 hours of driving up there and 2 hours driving back. So once again, 4 hours total drive time. And plus we've got Jody, the second person there. So we've got 8 hours of overall labor time, plus probably an hour flying the property and getting everything that we were offering. So when I popped in the drive mileage, getting close to another $100 and giving them their final quote. So kept it under $300 as the final quote, and that included the drive time and everything. I did not hear anything back. Here's the interesting thing. I remembered that I got from one of the drone aggregators, I got a listing about this property as well. I looked it up during the spring. It's way out in the middle of nowhere. And by the way, the best part is the last third of the drive is over crazy dirt roads. And I've done a lot of off-roading near the Williams area. There's some really interesting off-roading up there. So talk about wear and tear on the vehicle and stuff as well. So in total, these drone aggregation services that sent out these really super low balls in the spring, and not just one time, it was multiple times. The Seligman and Kingman stuff, I got 3 different notifications of those locations, both Seligman and Kingman. And so I think what has happened with the folks who are the owners of the land or representing the land, they've come to a realization that nobody is responding to us on the aggregators. And that's because they probably don't get, well, we were offering 125 or 150. No, the aggregator is taking a chunk off of that. So we as the drone pilots, we're being offered $50 for a flight or, $75 for a flight. And they don't care what your mileage is, how much time you spend on the road for them or anything. That's your problem. That's your business problem. And if you don't sit down and give yourself some baselines and also feel comfortable with charging for mileage, back in the day when I was in wireless, and I was a regional ops manager with AT&T, all of my cell technicians had company vehicles for driving out to the tower location so they could do their jobs and check on the towers every day. And we didn't make them drive their own cars. We didn't make them, take that financial hit. We didn't have them insuring their own motor vehicles. That was part of the business. Those vehicles were provided to them as part of the business. So, they weren't running their own equipment down. As small business owners, 9 times out of 10, we are running our own equipment down. We've invested in our drones. We've invested in our cameras. We've invested in the batteries. We've got our vehicles. We've invested in our training. If we're doing good and professional jobs for folks, then we're bringing a ton of value to the table. Now, for people who are new to the drone business, who are just getting a start, these aggregators are great. And I've said that on other live streams before. I've said that on other videos before. So I want you to understand, and I've also talked to people, like I've got another student from one of my classes who also follows along with the YouTube channel, who's going to be bidding a project soon. He actually did some free flights, which I did starting out too, to build the portfolio. And that is value to your business. So doing a free flight for someone, if you're adding to your portfolio, I totally get it. But once you start building that portfolio and the aggregators have done as much as they can for you, you need to start really looking at those realistic prices to compensate yourself for all the investment you've made, all that skilling up, and all that getting really good. And the guy in Connecticut who I talked to last week, we had a quick phone call. He asked if I minded, and I said, absolutely not. So he sent along some images. He sent along some time-lapse footage. He is there. He's got a great portfolio start. It's gorgeous. And the people who he's been flying that site for free are now interested in hiring him. That's why he called me. He was hoping that I could help out a little bit in thinking through what his pricing in Connecticut should be. So we spent a little time brainstorming, and he walked away with some good ideas. But so even from that free flight, from that really fun free flight, where he was going through the steps and learning some of that process for construction progression, he did that free job, which you don't make a habit out of, and it looks like it's turning into a paying job now. So I told him to be really realistic and also, price accordingly. New England is not a cheap place to live. New England is not a place with cheap property. I lived there for quite a while. So I encouraged him to, have a dialogue with them too. By the way, we're just popping up another ghost town. This is from the Vulture Mine down in Vulture, Arizona. So this was one of the most amazing intact ghost towns in all of Arizona. It was an active gold mine for a long time, was shut down for years, and you could actually walk through it on your own without a guide or tour guide or anything. So we did a lot of photo shoots over the years down there. And, this building part had actually collapsed between one of my visits. So, and this is the interior of the assay office. So not quite Route 66, but ghost towny enough for me. All right, let's just pop over one more. So I want to encourage all of you. I'm not saying drone aggregators are bad at all. And for your first couple of flights, for that learning process, for getting comfortable going to job sites, absolutely, because you're getting an education out of it. But when you get to that point where you're producing the kind of quality like the guy in Connecticut, what he showed me when you're getting to that point, it is time to charge and charge your value. And also don't neglect that you need to repay yourself for all of your capital investment. I know, some people, when I say I've got a new camera, they're like, oh, Rich has got a new toy. It is not a new toy. It is part of the business. And yes, I can get some fun photographs with it as well and help promote myself as well with it. And that's another thing. I would rather spend time working on my own business web pages than take a super lowball offer. As I'm working my business pages and getting them more refined and getting them to get the clients I'm looking for, then I'll spend that time. Nobody's cutting me a paycheck to make my website, but that website is my advertising tool. I say I've got a couple other things. Congrats on the 107 cert. Yes, absolutely awesome. Very cool. So now now you're commercial, right? But so yeah, when you see these kind of lowball things, I was just thinking about, because we've been spending a lot of time here over the past couple of weeks working up Explore Prescott, this was a search engine optimization experiment back in 2017 that I was building with a friend of mine to help him learn more about SEO. But we've now started pouring a lot of time into this. And so quite honestly, that Seligman job and that Kingman job that would have dedicated 2 days of my time. And by the way, I did ask one final question. I said, I can tell that the prices set you off a little bit. What were you expecting? And the person on the phone, the representative from whatever company this was, couldn't give me a straight answer. So I expressed my value in our conversation. That valuation made this poor guy choke. But he also didn't have a suggestion to me as what they felt was appropriate compensation for basically 2 full work days of my time to go out there and get the right stuff for him. So in the end, I would rather spend time on my internet presence, doing things on YouTube. I would rather spend that time building this up to reach a larger client base. So I'm just taking a look back over. So this is helpful. Not a problem, Michael. Miami, by the way. So as a kid, I did spend some time in the DeLand and Daytona areas, and then out in Winter Park for a while. So I don't miss the humidity there, but we've got the extreme heat here too. But usually it's pretty dry. But yeah, I find myself missing Florida occasionally. So like I was saying, we've been dedicating more time and actually growing this. So we'll be taking more care of this website, of course, and we've also been spending our time on azdrone.net. But, I'm not going to give somebody a full day of my time for a super low ball. And I would rather spend my time reinvesting in my own business. I've said it often because I've had other drone pilots say to me, don't you want to take every one of these? And, I said to them, sometimes the small ones pay off well. And sometimes the small ones are just absolutely not worth your time. And you've got to be able to distinguish that. And, if someone says to you, oh, we're going to pay you $50, but you're out for several hours, if you're out for 2 hours, that's $25 an hour. If you're out for 3 hours, that's $12, it just keeps going down. And are you paying yourself minimum wage when it's all said and done? Don't do that. Build your websites, build your presence, and target it toward those businesses that you're interested in. We're doing more and more targeting toward construction companies and doing those progression reports because, quite frankly, the construction companies that I've been working with have things called checkbooks, and they're not afraid to write a check to you. When you talk to other businesses, they're terrified of writing a check to you, even if it brings a lot of value and even if you can demonstrate that value. And I'm not just saying that about drone work. We also do a lot of website development for RV resorts. And when the first question, so here you go, here's a baseline for you knowing if things are going to go good or not. When you pick up that phone and the first question other than, hey, is this AZ drone? So what's the price of your service? Well, which one of my services? Doing some two-dimensional and three-dimensional modeling, doing video flights, doing progression flights, doing still photos, and they come back to, well, what's your price? If the first question, if the first question is really hardcore, what's your price? What's your price? What's your price? You probably don't want to work with that person anyways. The other interesting thing with that Oregon phone call for Seligman and for Kingman, I had asked a question before I got off the phone to go sit down and jot some notes. And I said, so when would you want me to be out there? And he's like, as soon as possible, tomorrow if possible. So they wanted to go, 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 go. And before I even got off the phone with them, I said, I don't think that that'd be a really great idea. Number one, I'm looking things up for you. Number two, we've got the smoke from California. Remember, this was into last week. So we had a ton of smoke coming in from the California fires. The skies were just dismal, terrible for doing any kind of shooting. It was not only overcast, but it had this yellow tinge. The person who called me from Oregon was unaware of anything going on down here at all. So I let them know, I said, I don't want to fly for you until we've got some better skies, because I want to represent the property as well as possible. And, I think that kind of stalled him too. And he said, oh, really? And I said, yeah. And it's also monsoon season, just as a heads up, even though it's been a weak monsoon season. So, yeah, if you hear price, it's probably a phone call that you want to get off of and somebody that you want to move away from. Now, I do understand some people asking price, because they're very new to this. But if you start explaining your value proposition, here are the things we can do for you. Here are the 4 or 5 services we can do for you. Which of these services sounds like they'll meet your needs? I'm very willing to have a longer phone conversation with them. Absolutely, just to talk them through. Because in doing that previously, I've landed clients by explaining more to them and telling them, the possibilities of what we can do for them. And by the way, so I'm just scrolling down on Explore Prescott because I just want to show you, we have been going to town on these virtual tours. Prescott doesn't have any other virtual tours anywhere showcasing the area. So if you live in a tourist town or, a recreation heavy town, or, maybe some historic towns, or you just love the place you're at, building up this kind of thing, this is also visible to my drone clients. And I tell them to come over and look here so that they can understand that not only can we do the flight of the house for you for your real estate exteriors, we can do the interiors as well. We can do 360s, or we can do video for you. So if you start telling them all your value propositions, then when you start telling them your pricing and break it out for them, they understand and they get it. But oftentimes with the drone aggregation services, they were given a budget by whoever hired them to find us, and then they need to take their percentage off of it, and usually the budget is pretty low. Now, I bet those same people, if they weren't with the drone aggregation services and just coming directly to me, probably wouldn't blink and they would be happy. And as a matter of fact, we've done a couple of new raw land sites over the past few weeks for people who are building their new homes, making a move, or selling their own properties. Or in the case of one guy, he wanted us to come out and fly a property that's been listed with a local realtor, but the local realtor only had one photograph from the center of a brushy, bushy area that was completely and totally unattractive, and it didn't display the fact that you had a beautiful view of Granite Mountain in the distance. So we went out, so that guy privately paid us to fly a site that was for sale, but the realtor actually hadn't invested the time in showing off that property. Shame on the realtor, because they're supposed to be representing their sales client, and to have a potential buyer actually pay me to go fly a property he's interested in. Wow. Just wow. Okay. So I'm going to wrap this one up in a minute, but I had to tell you these stories. And so the one out of Williams as well, like I said, I had gotten drone aggregators getting in touch with me over those as well. So it's probably folks who never got the images for their listings. They're trying again, so they're reaching out to independent drone services pilots. But I'm thinking that they might have been more interested if the drive time wasn't there. But I am going to compensate myself and compensate Jody. There's no two ways about it. By the way, so on the background screens here, you'll notice that this diner looks a lot like that diner down in Bisbee. That's because this is a Love diner, just like the one down in Bisbee. So I told you I'm a ghost town junkie. But this one is not in as good a shape as the one down in Bisbee. Now this was either Winslow, or Holbrook. It's on Route 66 as well, basically, and it's near a very famous Harvey Hotel, and I can't think of the name of that either. But yeah, so I just got on this Seligman and 66 kick because of these inquiries. By the way, this is another location on Route 66, the Twin Arrows Trading Post. Very run down, dilapidated. I mean, look at the back buildings here. Once again, I need to bring the drone up to these places and find a good cloudy day, don't I? Well, let's take a look at just a couple more. So I'm going to wrap this one up. We did a little over a half an hour this morning. I'd really love comments and feedback. I know that we've got more folks on channel right now, and we've got everyone in the chat. Also, I'd like to know if you have any specific things you'd like to see on a live stream. Please let me know down in the comments below. I'm, always trying to think up new live stream ideas. I usually come up with them, but we're coming into Labor Day weekend right now, so the long weekend. So I'm going to be a little more relaxed this weekend. So I'm not going to think too hard about Monday's live stream. But if you got some ideas or suggestions, please pop them down below, pop them into the chat there. It's greatly appreciated. And as always, it's greatly appreciated to have you stop by this channel. And I'm so happy that this has been helping people. I've been getting a lot of great feedback, and I'm glad to give a hand to everyone in the community. So let me know if I go off course anytime and if we need to course correct. By the way, this is from the Vulture Mine again. So I can't help myself. And some of you have probably seen this one before. This was a photo shoot for a local band in Prescott years ago. This was also shot at the Vulture Mine before they closed a lot of it down and only had private tours. So, and of course, along Route 66, this is actually not too far from Kingman, another amazing place. If you haven't traveled the Southwest, Route 66 is an incredibly interesting thing, and the ghost towns out here are just something else. All right, everybody, I hope you have an awesome weekend, and, take it easy a little bit. And if you've got further questions about pricing or anything, let me know. Like I said, I can't give you a cookie cutter. This is $500, this is $1,000, because it depends on the services that you're doing and you're offering. But make sure not to let people just roll on over you and lowball you. It's, you've put a lot of work and effort into this. You've taken a lot of time. You're subscribed to this channel. I know you're subscribed to a lot of other channels. And so you've spent a lot of time on education as well. Don't devalue that. You've got a lot of value in what you've been building. And I've got a lot of confidence in all of you. And like I said, also suggestions of other pilots, send me their links, send me your web addresses. We'll talk about them all. All right, I'm going to go hang out on the porch before it gets too hot and kind of take a leisurely Friday. We might do a little more work on the azdrone.net today because Jody's got a couple ideas, so we'll see. We'll see you on Monday, and I'll look for some suggestions for the next stream. Everybody, I'm just typing over in the chat. Thanks for popping in, everyone. There we go, because I always miss people's chats right before I'm logging out. Okay, we'll see you on Monday's live.